Maine is starting to crank up the bicentennial celebration.
The official date of our 200th birthday is March 15th, and we've been reporting on the events leading up to statehood, the statewide votes, the passions and problems that led Maine to want to separate from Massachusetts.
But Maine's march to statehood also ran into a national crisis, one that has echoed through American history. Here's Don Carrigan.
200 years ago this month, this paper, the Maine Constitution, had already been written and ratified by the people. The only obstacle to becoming a state was the U.S. Congress.
So this is just an explosive moment in American national politics.
Where in January 1820, Maine's petition for statehood became a key part of a national crisis. University of Maine history professor Liam Reardon.
And when it arrives, Congress has been deadlocked for almost a year over the admission of Missouri to the U.S. as a slave state.
Slavery had been an open wound on the country since America was founded. But Reardon and historian Mary Freeman say the debate had been low-key for more than 20 years, until Missouri.
This was really the first time that the controversy over slavery had erupted on a national scale since the Constitution.
The country was evenly divided with slave and free states when Missouri sought to join the Union and for the first time take slavery west of the Mississippi River. Maine seemed to offer an easy answer, a new free state to balance the new slave state. But Freeman and Reardon say the passions against slavery were intense in the northern states, though not necessarily in Maine.
Even though they were not going to be aggressively pro-abolition or pro-emancipation at this time in 1819 or 1820, they resented having Maine be tied to the expansion of slavery.
But tied they were, with both statehood and slavery in the balance. Finally, the Great Compromise let Missouri and Maine both into the Union and create a dividing line.
And to establish the southern border of Missouri, which is at the 36°30 latitude. Yep, this black dotted line.
Defining where slavery could and could not expand next. But many in the North fought that compromise.
Only passes the House of Representatives by a vote of 90 to 87. There's 7 congressmen from the District of Maine at this point. 5 of them are opposed to statehood via this route, and only 2 of them are in favor.
But the votes were just enough. March 15th, 1820, Maine became the 23rd state. Mary Freeman says at the time of statehood in 1820, there were about 1,000 African Americans living in Portland. Just 6 years later, they would build the Abyssinian Meeting House, which is still here. But while in Maine, blacks were free citizens and the men had full voting rights, in half the country, African Americans were still in chains. Slavery was not changed by the Missouri Compromise.
My take on it would be that the Missouri quote-unquote compromise shoves it back underground and allows people not to deal with the issue in mainstream politics for another 3 decades.
3 decades that would see the steady march toward civil war. And the historians say with 200 years of hindsight, they wonder if the compromise was worth the cost.
But if you look to the Missouri Compromise and the issue of slavery, this is an issue where I think I would agree with the sort of radical abolitionists that there is no room for compromise on the issue of slavery.
Starting in 1820, Maine was a full-fledged state, and 40 years later would lose more than 7,000 of its sons in the Civil War. In Portland, Don Carrigan, News Center, Maine.
And we would like to thank the Historical Atlas of Maine and the Fogler Library's Special Collections at the University of Maine for their help in putting that story together.